put into the cart, which is plugged into the wall.
Big.
All right. So hello, welcome. Yes, the transformation of the gunpowder empires was posted last night. I apologize for the tardiness. I didn't like the way the first one sounded. It's very difficult to sound like this when I'm talking to myself. It just is. So I've got to figure out a way to liven it up a bit. I think tonight I'm going to record from outside. So, yes, sir.
You take a picture of the classroom and then like put it up on your wall.
Well, you know, it's funny. Well, not funny, but interesting that you say that because I was trying to figure out how to get a class picture. Like, do I have all of you take pictures, then I Photoshop all of you together into one? Yes. I can't stay after school because I have to go pick up my son.
You're sitting here.
Life? No. If look, I can do this. When I'm getting ready to record, I'll let people know. And if you feel like chiming in and asking a question, I'll answer. Do you guys get notifications when new stuff is posted?
No, only find the bell.
Only if you don't turn. Okay, well, all right. Because I actually did the shameless John Green put things in the comments last night. I'm just curious for a comment. All right, here we go. Please work. What?
This is guy from the statement. I can get job for
All right. China's Qing Dynasty. This is the beginning of the end of dynastic China. What, sir?
They restricted the comments.
Oh, now I gotta figure out how to change that.
Is it made for you could have made
Yeah.
that you can't have comments.
If it's made for kids, you can't have comments. But if it's not made for kids, then Lake County will let me post it.
This for like
Let's
say hell.
No. No, Wake County won't let me do it if I don't post it for kids.
Should I do it outside of Wake County?
It's a Wake County computer.
Then get another.
Yeah, I'm rolling in money. Anyway, by 1750, the Qing Dynasty remained strong. China was large. China was prosperous. 1750, what else is going on in the world? Big event.
American Revolution.
Started the Industrial Revolution. The American Revolution is 1776.
1750, the French and Indian War is
About to start 53, but we don't know that yet. Okay. The Industrial Revolution. What? That's been going on. That hasn't stopped, hasn't ended. You see evidence of it in the gunpowder empires as well. Like the Ottomans tried. They put some things forward that were pretty progressive. All right. China's doing okay in 1750. Rich, prosperous, skinny dragons, benevolent dragons, not evil Smaug dragons like Europe. Oh, the Qing restricted trade with the Canton system. Canton is a port city. Canton is the only place where Europeans could trade. It was a trading town. It was open on a seasonal basis. There was a trading season, and then you had to leave. Yeah, and basically, the only thing of any real importance or desire that non-Chinese people had that the Chinese people wanted was silver. Well, thank you, Spain. And, you know, silk, porcelain, tea, and the ever popular trading, etc. ETC is a very popular thing. One of these days, people are going to talk. Miss Sims doesn't show her face anymore. See what happens when you don't get points? People go back to their shells. All right. In 1792, the McCartney mission sent by the British government sought to expand trade between Britain and China. You had to guess. How do you think it went?
Pretty bad.
For who?
The Chinese.
Okay, we got the Chinese and the British. All right, the British. 1792, bad for the British. Okay, how it went is partial answers. You should know this by now. All right. Dun, dun, dun. There he is, George McCartney. I don't know if he's related. Sir Paul McCartney, so don't ask. All right. He was a Beatle, by the way. Okay. George McCartney failed to convince the Qing to buy more British goods and refused to perform the kowtow before Emperor Qianlong. All right, so what's kowtow?
It's some sort of like dance or like where you like basically show respect to the emperor.
Okay, it's something you do to show respect. It ain't a dance. Yes.
It's basically like, take it, you're better than me, and China's better than all of us.
Pretty much, but what's the act? Yes.
Don't you have to pay money to?
Well, money's tribute.
You get
Like, it's some sort of ceremony, like you bow.
You bow, you kowtows, you get hands and knees, you bow, you prostrate yourself before the emperor, and he refused to do that. Yeah.
What's it?
Not a dance.
Oh, I'm never doing that. If I
All right.
I'm not gonna doubt it. Sorry.
I thought my wife- because she's
Fuck
me. But she's
Oh, whoa, that's good. Good save. All right, Mr. Dunn. Hold on, we'll come back to that.
He's got a lot of hate for the
America. All right. Our celestial empire possesses all things in prolific abundance and lacks no product within its borders. This is a pretty sick flex. There is therefore no need to import the manufacture of outside barbarians in exchange for our own produce. Tremblingly obey and show no negligence. That was the response. China has all they need other than silver. They saw all non-Chinese as barbarians. They saw all non-Chinese as lesser than. Notice they are the celestial empire. It is heaven, it is China, it is earth. That's how they see themselves. That's why they're known as the Middle Kingdom. They're the cheese.
They think of themselves as those-
They're the cheese in the ultimate grilled cheese sandwich. What?
They think of themselves. People call them.
Oh no, they think of themselves and they prefer. Yes. Yes.
They still
I don't know. To a certain degree, maybe.
they're all boxes now.
And as we know, there's more than one type.
Right.
Okay. In 1795, Qianlong died. So that, coupled with corruption in their civil service exam system, coupled with financial problems, and a terrible Huanghe River flood, weakened the Qing rule. So basically, it was just one big hot salad of mess and unfortunateness that led to problems with the Qing and in their rule. And that little thing is bugging me. Can I get that to go away? Yes. Okay. Pretty picture. China's isolation allowed European powers to surpass them economically and militarily. One of the struggles and challenges, or not necessarily a struggle, but the challenge of being an isolationist country is that if you aren't paying attention, I see you, hold on, you can get passed by others. And this happens. You get so caught up in your own self-worth, and we can, distill this down to the individual level. That others around you, whether it be a person or a country, can surpass you in things. Sir, we have to go back for a slow typer. I'm not calling names out. I went the wrong way. Went the wrong way.
It was
Well, you were in front of it.
you were
Well, then say move politely.
Was it hard for China to remain isolationist if they weren't an island like Japan?
No, they have. I mean, geography plays a huge part. They have the Gobi Desert to the west. They have mountains to the north, and they have the sea to the east. So no, it was easy. And the Himalayas.
I said they also had to.
So no, yes.
Wasn't Japan isolationist? Isolationist.
Try again. Isolationist. You were adding syllables. Yes, and so was Korea.
So why did
Yeah, I thought you were fluent in English, man. What a lie.
didn't Japan was become like a major power when they industrialized?
That's today. We're gonna find out today.
Wasn't Korea part of it?
No, Korea was difficult to. They were a tough nut. Korea did a really good job of keeping people out. All right.
I remember reading somewhere that Korea was part of Japan during like
Yes, sir.
maybe a little bit.
Yeah, during the war.
I mean, like
Everything was part. Everything in Southeast Asia was part of Japan during the war. All right. In 1800, China outlawed importation of opium, a highly addictive drug. But now again, it's also where you get morphine, which is a painkiller of major strength, which the British merchants began selling in China in the 1790s. So Britain tried to think of a way to get into China economically. What better way than drugs? Drugs are lucrative. Whether
Did
you-
like the opium make your nose swollen?
That's leprosy. I don't know about opium. Okay. I don't know. I've never seen that in a movie. I've just seen people hitting pipes and going on. I've never seen them losing their
I mean,
nose.
like long term.
I don't know. I got a funny feeling that before you lost parts of your body would be like, check, please. All right. Okay. By the 1830s, 30,000 chests of opium were entering China annually.
How big's a chest?
A chest. You know,
What is it? Large chest, a small chest?
if it's small, it's not a chest, Ben.
I read
Yeah,
it in
it
the
is.
textbook. I don't remember, but the textbook says it.
Let's just say they're the size of the table.
Okay, that's like a medium chest.
First of all, it's a plant, so you can, however you want to, you can grind it. You can carry a lot in a chest because it's a plant. You can smush it. All right.
So like 100 cylinder.
I don't know. I don't know. Chinese had the metric system.
Just look at the textbook.
The Chinese, yeah, you still have to read that book, even though there's notes, because they kind of go together like Rama Lama Lama Shibba Ding Dong. The Chinese grew desperate to stop this trade. They outlawed it. It's not working. They got to keep it out of the country. Just say no. It's like one of the first war on drugs.
But yeah,
No, because you have 300 million Chinese people. That's all ages, not users. And drugs tend to make you unproductive. This just in, and so it was hurting China's development and killing people. In 1767, 1,000 chests of opium were sent to China. By the 1830s, 30,000. And remember, in 1800, China outlawed it. Why America didn't pay attention to China? Oh, I know why. It's history. We don't pay attention to history. All right. By 1838, 8 years later, 40,000 chests are on their way to opium, are on their way to China. It's lucrative. It's just volume now. Now, the interesting thing for England is it must be lucrative because you can't grow it in England.
If they were in like Afghanistan, right?
Well, that's their number one export today.
It's
is
like
opium.
India, Pakistan.
Yeah, since India is since India and Pakistan were one thing back then, and they were part of Britain, that's probably where they got it. Yes, an opioid is a manufactured chemical derivative of this. They're painkillers. Yes, that's where we get opioids.
So like, are poppy seed they just made out of like the same sort of thing?
Yeah, just not refined. That's why you'll fail a drug test if you eat too many poppy seed bagels, then you'll be.
It's like eating wheat bread versus drinking alcohol.
No, but it reads that way. Why are you so enthused about that? Hold on. Yes. Yes.
Seven is the last thing.
if the opium is grown in like India and Pakistan, would they export it directly from India to China, or would they take it back?
No, export it right there. The shorter the distance, the less it costs, the more you profit. They probably have all the facilities they need in India. There were 2 million addicts in 1840, as best we can surmise. By 1880, there were 120 million addicts.
That's like a 4 million population.
Excuse me?
The Chinese
They're selling this to whomever. Yeah, 'cause that's true. This also does mean that there are probably Chinese businessmen complicit in this sale because there's money to be had.
So much.
That's a lot of addicts when you're looking at 300 some odd million people. What?
Like, that's what I was gonna ask.
About a third of the population is addicted to opium.
Well, by 1880, it would be about 400 million.
Yeah, so think about it. Yeah, think about it now. It'd be, they've got what, 1.3 billion people, so a third of that.
By
I mean,
1880, they'd have at least like 400.
right. So I mean, that would cripple their economy today. All right.
Especially since like most of these.
Well,
like,
because it's mainly agricultural, so not to the effect. There are other drains on an economy and a society when you have that kind of drug abuse and dependency than just economic or just the worker. Failed diplomacy, failed law enforcement, could not end the opium trade. The Chinese actually had their own little version of a Boston Tea Party, and they took opium crates and threw them into the port of Shanghai and in Canton, just threw them overboard. They burned warehouses and ships containing the opium.
Why would you burn it?
Yeah, what? Those firefighters are probably like under different, the people that set it on fire.
You burn it so that irrespective of the contact nature to which you're referring, you're burning product. You're destroying the product before it gets into your country. That's their thought more than anything else. We're not letting it in. Burn it and let the people around the port feel good for a while, but it's not going inland. It's not going into my country. It's not going to get any worse. That was their thinking. Now you're Britain, and you don't see it as a health concern. You see it as lost revenue. Chinese authorities ordered the destruction of 20,000 chests. That's nice. By what right do British merchants use the poisonous drug to injure the Chinese people? I've heard that the smoking of opium is very strictly forbidden by your country. That is because the harm caused by opium is clearly understood. Since it is not permitted to do harm to your own country, then even less should be let pass into. That was by Twain. Said, what are you doing this for? All right. Ooh. Yeah. Someone have a question? I heard a ding. I know Kate does. Go.
So because of China's link, like those things like burning it and throwing it into water, is that what started the opium wars with China, with Britain?
Yep.
So it's just been destroying it.
Yeah.
Even though Britain was still getting money.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe just me.
Britain was looking for a reason to pick a fight. Yeah.
So when you say they burned like warehouses and stuff, was that once it was already in China?
Yeah. Because remember, Canton is still the trading center. It all goes to warehouses there and then gets distributed.
So it's already, the British have already sold it.
To
Right?
somebody, or they're there in a British warehouse, and I got a funny feeling it's not marked as opium. I'm sure the invoice said something else, but they just burn whatever, and I'm sure in some cases they mistakenly burned legitimate stuff too. But I have to think though that what we know about Chinese sort of rationale and their history of bureaucracy, that I kind of think they know what's in the warehouse. Yes, sir.
So this wouldn't have involved the British government at all, right? Because by then it would be like three normal trades. It would have been the private merchant. Right?
No, this is the British government.
Part of the company.
Oh, the opium wars? Yeah, okay.
It wasn't like a.
It doesn't matter because remember, India is part of England. Remember, technically, every colony is part of the mother country. So even though it's coming from India, India is a colony. I see you. Is a colony of England. Therefore, if China says England, you can't do this, and something from India or something from the Bahamas or wherever, Australia, does it, that's still ostensibly England. So they're guilty, and China outlawed it, and England's violating their law by continuing to send it, as are the Chinese people, who I'm sure were treated fair or justly. This begins when Britain declares war on China a second time. First time they declared war on China, they went after them with drugs. Now they're going after the Chinese for burning the drugs. All Britain wanted was a way to get in there for trade. That's all this is a way to shift the balance of power and to negotiate trade rights and to hit a market. And that's all they're doing is hitting a market. I mean, if you're an economic historian, that's how you approach this. You remove the moral compass, you remove the humanity from it, and you look at it from an economics perspective. China's a market. I have a good, they want it, I'm going to sell it. Drugs will always have a market because people are always in pain. Yes.
Did Britain have an opium crisis of their own?
A little. There's an opium crisis in the west of the United States, brought over by the Chinese. Chinese bring opium houses to the west when we start settling west with westward expansion. The HMS Nemesis, how aptly named. Chinese called it the devil ship. But
It's a big ship.
it's just a warship that was their nemesis. The British easily defeated China and forced them to sign the Treaty of Nanjing. That treaty basically puts China under a whole sphere of influence of a lot of European powers. Oh, wait, sorry. Let me back up. I'm in the way. All right. All right. China had to pay for the cost of the war, open 5 ports to British trade, ending the Canton system, which was that one port trading season kind of thing. And this is how England got Hong Kong.
What about Macau?
That was Portugal and the Dutch and other places. And that may have been one of the ones that opens up. All right. Good times. China had to open 5 more, yeah, right, in addition to Canton. I said that. China had to pay Britain $21 million for expenses procured during the war. I don't know what that is today. I guess that's what Ben's looking up.
That's not a lot of money for war, and I forgot about it.
In 1850, yeah. My shoe. No, we just dollars. And then China had to give up Hong Kong Island to Britain in perpetuity. Means forever. For the foreseeable, perpetuity means for the foreseeable future.
Oh, it's almost $34 billion.
There you go. All right. What's that? Yeah. When you lose a war, there's again one of those constants in history. The loser gets hosed, like totally taken advantage of. The conditions are awful. So my question is, why sign?
Because they're
Do you?
fear that they're gonna get like.
Might take their right. They say, okay, fine, we'll just open fire again. I mean, they could. Well, I don't think they could conquer China.
Yeah, like just send like maybe 100 million people all to where the fighting is. And they could just become what Russia was. They just like send the people in. It just be like.
Right. Well, that Russian thing of like 2 people and 1 gun was a myth. But I've seen that before in movies where like they would send troops in and there would be enough guns for like every other soldier. So when one died, someone would pick up the gun. That didn't happen. Like
I was talking about like
just send the people in, yeah. The human shield.
Yeah, why didn't China just like send like not even like 1/4 of the population would have kicked out the British?
Because you do the army first. Treaty forced China to grant Britain most favored nation status, giving it trading advantages over all other nations, which basically meant it paid the least amount in taxes. So Britain is now the most favored nation in China, whether they like it or not. The Chinese, they do. So Britain's now going to save money on tariffs. We know they're not going to kowtow. We know that Britain can just keep now. Don't see anything in this agreement that Britain said, okay, we'll stop with the opium now.
They're not gonna stop.
Oh,
Now they're gonna make more
stacks and stacks and stacks. What?
Now they're gonna make more money.
Well, they're gonna, but now they can make more money with things less detrimental. I mean, never gonna make as much money, but you can be equally successful as a country, much more legitimately and much. I mean, that's a pretty crummy look to give your country. We're gonna go get a country strung out for our economic advantage. Like that's. There are words that I'm not going to use, but that's a really jerky way to go about things. All right. In 1856 to 1860, further wars in China had them sign even more unfair treaties with France, Russia. We joined the party, and Japan. So once the door is open and Britain shows the rest of the world how it's done, it is done. And then the next slide, you're going to see sort of the sphere of influence and how those countries get indirect control of China. All right, here we go. And remember, if you miss something, relax. It's being recorded. Yeah.
That picture on the left is, I think, the chapter picture for chapter 19.
Nice.
It's like the
The other thing I've noticed in my other world history classes today, I showed the nationalism and the imperialism crash courses because I'm making sure they understand the economic systems and that they understand what nationalism and what imperialism is, so that when I ruin Black Panther for them, they do well on the questions. And the John Green stuff is all AP World. Like the stuff he talks about, I was like, holy cow! I wish I had known that. Yes.
what was that acronym that I used to teach? It was nationalism, imperialism. There was an acronym for it, right? Is it what?
Manic?
Manic.
Is it manic? Yeah. That's French. That's nothing wrong with that. It's a good question. All right. Here you go. These are the spheres of influence. This is where these countries have economic and sort of geopolitical influence over those countries. Not direct rule, but kind of where they hold economic. You may want to try this. I'm just saying this might not be a bad idea. Yes, sir.
What did you mean that you're in the Black Panther?
Oh, they have to watch it and they have to find examples of isolationism and capitalism and imperialism and nationalism because it's all in there. It's a beautiful movie for teaching those concepts. And there are like 4 kids who've never seen it, so they're never going to be able to just watch that movie again.
It'd be the easiest thing to do.
But yeah, but the questions are a bit. They have 2 movies for that unit, so.
What's the other?
Joie Noel.
Uh,
Joie Noel, it's French Merry Christmas. It's about the Christmas truce, the first year of World War I. Zemo's in it. It's one of his first movies. Yeah. Good news, people. Season 2.
there is a season 2?
No, of Ted Lasso. Yes. If you have not watched Ted Lasso on Apple Plus,
Oh, it's great.
it's so good. I didn't see anything yet. Season 2. He's over there now shooting. All right.
Dying in the part where someone jumping outside.
I hate how it ends. Anyway, he's a football coach, knows nothing about soccer. He's coaching in the Premier League.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Major League where the owner hires him to fail to get back at her ex-husband because he left her. And it's her husband's team. Oh, it's really good.
It is.
Aside from language, it's really funny. All right. Well, the language is funny. By 1900, Chinese ports controlled by foreign powers. Again, now you get exclusive trading rights from certain countries in certain parts of the world. Even Japan gets in there. And this is during the Meiji, which we'll get to. I always mispronounce that name. Meiji Empire. We'll get to it. So there you go. So now you see the rest of the world encroaching on China. And if they can get into China, there's nothing left that they can't do. This is the Taiping Rebellion, I'm pretty sure. China's defeat by Britain and the Qing government's loss of control led to massive rebellions. And a civil war in China is a cataclysmic war in almost any other country on the planet because of the sheer number of people.
Were people against people? Or
Yes. People against people.
Oh,
Yeah.
how is this not like them exactly one?
Well, it depends on where you start and stop wars. It just depends.
One like.
Well, first of all, it'd be different if, look, it's not every single Chinese person fighting every single Chinese person.
But like,
Okay,
even if it's a little bit, it's still a good amount.
sure. But you don't know how long this lasted.
No.
Okay, so hold on. And you don't know what they're gonna count for war death. Is it just, I mean, so it's, yes,
I saw a word on Wi-Fi that I did not know.
Yeah, extra
extraterritoriality?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Well, territory, it's having territory beyond your territories. It's extra. It's gaining, it's just, yeah, it's like, the territory is a place that you control but don't necessarily rule. This is a little beyond that because it's strictly just economic. It's just like being extra. I mean, it's, yeah, all right. Look, you learned a word today, extraterritoriality. All right. That is a long word. It's like sesquipedalian. That's a person who uses big words. I love that word. All right. Hung Xiquan, son of a peasant near Canton, formed a Christian sect. See, historically speaking, most of the world doesn't like them because they're agitators. They cause unrest, either spiritual unrest or in some cases social and political unrest. That's why Japan doesn't want Christians. That's why early Chinese dynasties didn't want Christians. That's why the Romans didn't want Christians. And it's why the Jews didn't want Christians. They upset things. But most new religions do that. Muhammad did that. The Mormons did that. He formed a Christian sect called the God Worshippers. And he hoped to overthrow the Qing Dynasty. Because remember, Qing is the mandate from heaven. So maybe, I'm purely spitballing and thinking out loud here. So maybe if you say you're the people who worship the God who chooses the emperor, maybe you can overthrow the God. All right. The upper class owe us money. The middle class ought to wake up. But lower classes, follow me. It beats renting an ox to plow barren land. So you're better off fighting than plowing desert. Yes. Yes, it's a peasant uprising.
At this point, if everyone's like, wow, Christianity, this is kind of disrupting things, wouldn't the mandate of heaven lose a little bit of its like
Maybe,
power?
maybe. And maybe that plays into what happens with not Mao, but during that time period, with Chiang Kai-shek. All right. Dun, dun, dun. Here we go. Hong Xiquan, the self-professed younger brother of Jesus. Now, before we get to laughy, ha, 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 silly Chinese, their experience with Christianity, if it's depending on how new it is, and if Jesus is, well, in most Christian denominations, Jesus is the Son of God. In some Christian denominations, Jesus is God in physical form. Then who cares how old Jesus is? He could be the son of Jesus if Jesus can live forever. So, what? Okay. Well, if
He's also the Son of God.
right, which means he could be, because God.
he's younger by 8,000 years.
It doesn't say the next brother. It just says the younger brother. And Jesus had 7 brothers, I think. Well, yeah, I know he had at least 3 brothers. I know he had James and a couple others. I think there were 7. Mary had 7 kids, something like that. The kingdom of the heavenly peace, the royal. So that's the goal. Hong declared the kingdom of heavenly peace, creating Taiping, which is peace, in China with himself as heavenly king. So he creates an area called Taiping, area of heavenly peace, with him as the heavenly king, which is really rather analogous to the whole mandate of heaven, just a different mandate. tell, Craig. All right.
He just didn't call from the building.
Yeah,
They just like kind of.
I don't know. It's so big. Who knows how long it took them to find out? All right. We gotta look at Japan. The Taiping Rebellion sought to create a classless society. With equal distribution of wealth, with women equal to men. Somebody's been to Europe. This
That's
is
what I was
what-
about to say. I was gonna say for sure.
Someone's been to Europe. I know that the Japanese sent people. No, the Chinese will end up sending people to Europe to do this kind of self improvement, internal improvement. But again, the Chinese are literate. They've been literate a long time. Paper was a Chinese creation. Ink, the whole idea of a non-movable type, was Chinese. So it would not be surprising to think that someone understood Enlightenment thought or the economic thoughts of Marx and Engels. But if they didn't, then this would just be another example of independent or advancement, where something develops in different parts of the world independent of one another, like agriculture. Yes.
Is this kind of like the start of communist China?
Well, you can't have that until there's communism. You can't have that until there's Lenin. But that's the interesting thing that is way back. That when was this again? 1851. I don't even think Marx and Engels wrote their book yet. And if they did, I'm not sure it made it to China in a year's time. So that's fascinating. That's definitely independent innovation. Which also, long overdue discussion question. I got it. Thank you. No, not. What's that?
Karl Marx was in the political party of the Communist Correspondence Committee until 1847. It says this,
Okay.
so before that. and that's
Right, but so the concept was there, but when did he put it in writing?
What's the book called?
The manifesto, right? Before that was Engels. Before that, they wrote a book on. Before the Communist Manifesto, him and Engels wrote another book. I've got it somewhere.
It was in 1848.
Okay, so maybe. All right,
1848.
and which book is that?
Communist Manifesto.
Okay, but there was a book written before that. All right, civil service exam content was changed from Confucian classics to the Bible. Private property ownership was abolished. The solar calendar replaced with a lunar calendar. Foot binding was banned. I'm sure that got a lot of rejoicing from half the population. Society was declared classes and the sexes were declared equal. Civil service exams were held for women. This is radical. This is revolutionary in China of places when you consider the role of women in Chinese society. The Qing dictated cue of hairstyle was abandoned in favor of wearing the hair long. Banned use of opium, gambling, tobacco, alcohol, polygamy, including concubines, slavery, and prostitution. All, you can't read that or not, but they all carry death penalties. Sounds a little bit like Cromwell. Yes.
Was there any racial inequality?
No, there's only Chinese.
Okay, so it didn't have immigrant people.
No. No. Han Chinese. Most Asian places, with the exception of the Europeans, very homogeneous.
Okay.
Japan is a nation state. It's like 98% Japanese. Iceland too, pretty Icelandic.
Oh,
Yeah.
so it still is like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Japan has a population problem because Japan also has an immigrant problem. They don't want anybody in the country.
Okay.
They have a shortage of money.
Well, yeah, most stage 4, stage 5 countries are running out of little people. Yes, of course. All right, babies, children, not little people. You know what? It's funny. I knew it as soon as I said it. I regretted it. All right. The Qing forces squashed the rebellion, and Hong committed suicide. 20 to 30 million died in the world's bloodiest civil war.
So this would be how much killed in World War I?
Well, it just depends. Are you counting just soldiers? Are you counting Russian people? Who are you counting? I don't know the total number of casualties in World War I.
15.
Don't know. I'm not gonna guess. I'm not gonna guess for the sake of guessing. If I don't know something, I'll be an honest teacher and say, je ne sais pas. Il faut demander. What?
20 million deaths, including civilians.
In World War One?
75 billion.
So this,
75 million in World War Two.
so this is the second deadliest war.
Yeah. Now, how many people did Stalin kill? A lot. Okay.
Without
Again,
war,
I know. Again, one of those words that's not allowed. A lot.
but it's like a lot.
Oh, that's so much not better. All right. After the loss of the Opium War, after the brutality of the Taiping Rebellion, the self-strengthening movement begins. So you would think, no, you wouldn't think. This makes perfect sense. China is gonna refocus from within. And they're gonna strengthen from within, and they are not gonna take any more guff from anybody not Chinese. The self-strengthening movement begins in China. Led by scholars, the movement sought to challenge the West by modernizing China from within. We're not going to ask for outside resources. We're not going to ask for outside help. Specifically, we're going to learn how to do it, and we're going to take care of it. We're going to do it ourselves, by golly. Yes.
So this isn't adopting Muslim culture, it's like taking it and like taking parts of it.
It is modernizing. It is China going, we're going to improve. Okay, and okay. You're going to have to take some of the invention, right? But you're not going to buy it from them. You're not going to ask them to come over here and set it up for you. You're going to set it up. You're going to run companies your way. You're going to do things your way, and you're going to make yourself better with as little outside interference as possible. With the exception of one thing. There is one thing that the Chinese are going to need Europe for. No. School. Ironically, not if you're going to fix yourself. Ironically, Europe and the United States is where everybody comes. No matter how much you hate America politically, you come here for college.
Right from your first opportunity.
That's what college is.
But if one
That's what college is, ladies and gentlemen. What about it? You look, I'm torn on that. I don't know if they should be forgiven. You don't have to go to school. You choose to go to college. And you're kind of forced to choose by our society to go to college. You can be just as successful and just as happy at Wake Tech or doing stuff with your hands. We just devalue work with our hands in this country because we just feel like we can't. 1860 to 1900 self-strength, a 40-year movement. They do encourage capitalism, a modern military, industry, communication, transportation, all the things going on in the rest of the Western world. China's like, yes, we recognize a need. We recognize we want it. We're just not going to ask you for help. I'm going to do it myself. They're a teenager, and Europe is a teacher for a parent. Not that I have any experience with that. And they want no help from the teacher parent. None. Students learned Western languages and science. They were sent to Western countries hoping to learn stuff and bring it back. Like cannons.
that looks like a real mortar and a Gatling gun.
Weapons. Thank you. All right. Boy.
At this point, does Western just mean anything to the west of China?
It means Europe.
Europe.
It just means, yeah, it means Europe primarily.
Anything to the west of.
Because anything to the west of China would be Southwest Asia, and yeah, so it's Europe. Self-strengthening movement failed. The Dowager Empress, that's right, China had a woman empress, the Dowager, Zusi, I think that's how you pronounce it, welcomed reform, but she refused to restructure the top. So there can be economic reform, there can be some political reform and some social reform, but we're not going to reform the political top. I'm the empress. I like it. But that's common in every, when you look at every revolution, every failed revolution, every failed reform. I talk about this in last night's notes. It's the people closest to the top or at the top who end up killing them because of what it means to give up. They had to be willing to give up a little bit of their position for everybody else to be pulled up. And it's a difficult pill to swallow, I guess. She continued the influence of Confucianism on the bureaucracy. So in continuing the Confucian way of doing things with the continued Western economic manipulation, the self-strengthening movement eventually withers, dies, ends. There's one more rebellion of sorts. Yep. The Qing secretly encouraged the Society of the Harmonious Fists. That's like the greatest name for an organization ever. Because what is Kung Fu? Oh no, what does karate mean? Karate means empty hand.
Taekwondo means like hand, foot, and
they resisted Western customs and foreign influence in China. Of course, the issue was if you're only fighting with harmonious fists, it's probably not going to end well, unless you're like an entire army of Jackie Chans. And I can watch his movies, even his bad Chinese ones, just because he does all his stunts and it's just crazy good. All right. Or Crouching Tiger. All right. Members of the society practiced shadow boxing. They believed they were impervious to bullets. Well, then they would be impervious to bullets.
you'd have to focus really hard to like stop multiple bullets at once, like all of them.
Okay, then you're
You can't create a force.
then you're Elastigirl's daughter. Thank you. Or you're, Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
Some Chinese people have conspired with foreigners, have caused China trouble, wasted our national revenue, broken our monasteries, destroyed Buddhist images, seized our people's graveyards. Now, all the spirits have descended to teach our young men their magic boxing so they can extinguish the foreigners. Look, we can look at it with our 21st century cynicism, but I find that remarkably cool.
What?
That belief that you understand that your ancestry, that your history has been trod upon, desecrated, and destroyed by not only foreigners, but by people, your own people who support them. And our ancestors are speaking to us because the ancestor is an integral part of Chinese culture.
Until it isn't.
What?
Until it isn't.
It still is. All right. In 1900, the Boxers invaded the capital, Beijing. They attacked foreign embassies and any Chinese who embraced these Western customs. This was such a cool, that one semester of Chinese history was a cool class to teach. Almost there. They invaded the capital again. They attacked again. So here just shows you their route. Here's the capital. There's the U.S. legation. Russia is there. All right. The 8 power allied forces, Britain, Germany, France, Japan, the United States, Russia, Italy, and Austro-Hungary, all put down the rebellion. Like, that is overkill. Like, that is unnecessary.
Yeah,
But because each of them have an economic stake through a sphere of influence, and Austria-Hungary just is happy they're invited. Really? Thank you. All right, you know what I mean? Like, the mean girls have let them come sit at the table. All right. And there they are. all standing there, post-crushed rebellion, Britain, US, oh, very nice, Russia, like little R, British India, Germany, New York, French, Austria, Italy, Japan.
I think they capitalized for the Germany because the first letter is not capitalized.
That's fine.
Oh.
Yep, that's how you end a rebellion.
Yes. Those are very.
Western forces occupied Beijing, forced China to pay for this war,
Thanks.
and to access China markets assured the open door policy. Now, all of China is my supermarket. Welcome, Chinese shoppers.
So, why is the boxers like by trying? Doing what they hope to achieve, they basically just made their problem worse.
Yes, which happens a lot in revolutions. When revolutions fail, well, China won for so long. If you think about it, China won for 5,000 years, 4,000 years, and then just not. Yes.
So this is an army of people. Didn't you say like they were basically shadow boxers? Were they not using weapons?
No. Or pitchforks, like no, because they believed they were impervious to bullets. They believed that.
I get that, but I'm saying how was the Chinese government not able to deal with that themselves?
Because it's like almost.
Well,
they were like they.
I don't. That's an excellent question. I don't know. Do I have a book on the boxer? I don't know.
Didn't the Chinese government support the boxers?
Yeah. The emperor.
Like they probably.
Well, supported them by like saying, "Y'all are good. We're not going to stop you." Yeah.
They probably like. could if they really-
Why should not China be free from the foreigners who are only making trouble on their soil? This is from Mark Twain. If they would allow all go home, what a pleasant place China would be for the Chinese. We did not allow Chinamen to come here, and I say in all seriousness that it would be a graceful thing to let China decide who shall go there. Mark Twain. Samuel Clemens, arguably, in my opinion, America's greatest writer. All right. Japan. What time is it? That was fine because the questions were legitimate. All right, I'm going to record Japan tonight. We'll migrate tomorrow. And since the test doesn't start till Friday, that's fine. All right, I'm not because I want to cover Japan too because there'll be just as many questions. So I'm going to record Japan tonight. Tomorrow we're going to talk about global migration because that's a nice thing to end with, only because we're well versed in migration and immigration in this country. And I'll get these both up as quickly as possible. If you have any questions, hang out. Otherwise, enjoy your lunch. Have a nice day. And seriously consider, hey, I'm talking to your other classmates. Show some respect. And seriously consider trying to be here when class starts so we can finish earlier. Also, I'm probably going to record the shower curtain thing for everybody so you can kind of understand what it is, and then we'll take it from there. So enjoy the rest of your day. Go outside. It's GE Orgis, and I'll see you all tomorrow.